all the time in the world. This film is about a murder investigation. It's set in two locations, the night of the murder and the police office in which the policemen are investigating the murder. The twist in the film is that one of the policemen actually turned out to be the murderer. At the beginning of the process, Taylor put forward the idea of a break-in robbery and that the policeman could be investigating this. But then we realised there wasn't really a major objective into wanting to solve this case, so we changed it to a murder. We then thought of expanding this idea, and after being inspired from the show Sherlock, I thought we could use supernatural methods. For example, the investigators stepping into the night of the murder. When doing further research into this film, I felt I was quite influenced by an episode of Luther in Series 5 that I'd watched. I really wanted to replicate the stealth mode of the murder like the director did in Luther, taking note from scenes such as the bus scene murder. I also drew inspiration from other crime television dramas such as Silent Witness. An odd one to say, but I also drew inspiration from Family Guy. I know although Family Guy is a satirical comedic animation show, I did admire the way of storytelling in some of the old series. I wanted to use this idea of beginning the film with a different subject but getting to the real focus later on in the film. I tried doing this using the drunk man at the beginning. When it came to writing and shooting the police office scene, we were struggling for quite a long time. Taylor then brought up this idea of looking at the arrest scene from Hot Fuzz. We did actually hope to shoot something similar to this in the way we edited and shot it. For the grading of the film, although now it's in black and white, at the beginning of the process we did actually want to grade the film like the television series Ozark, giving that quite suspenseful but depressing atmosphere. As the role of the writer, I wrote the story. I used methods such as beginning, middle and end. I also went into character formats using a hero, false hero and victim. I do feel like I held the group back as I did not emotionally connect with the story, therefore I was finding it hard to write. As the director, I organised meetings, I had individual chats to discuss other individual roles. I came forward with the artistic vision, I held the crew and actors together. I don't really feel a lot went well in this film, to be honest. I guess what did go well was that we made a film. I believe Taylor did a good job on DOPing. I feel the edit went well, actually. I think we were kind of saying, well, I was anyway, I was kind of freaked out to see how this would look because I was just kind of embarrassed about it. And although I'm not proud of it, the edit kind of pulled it together a bit, so thanks to Megan for that. Overall, I do think the film went terrible. A lot of us did not live up to the expectation of our roles. I feel that something that held me back a lot was the fact that I was inspired solely by television dramas, and this did not suit the project. On the second shoot day, when we were shooting the scene in the police office, one person did not turn up for the shoot entirely, and the second person didn't turn up until the actors came, in which meant we took longer setting up and we shortened our shooting time. Going back to this idea that we wanted to shoot it like the Hot Fuzz scene, we were unable to do this as we actually realised that we hadn't thought through the mise-en-scène as much as we thought we had. I did actually do a rehearsal, right? I did do a rehearsal, but I only did it with crew. So I think if I was to do it again, I would do rehearsal with crew and actors, so I could block the scenes properly, because I felt that was something that really held us back on the day. I think I'd check up on the others in the group more and actually go through them every single scene, especially the art director, I think, and get like all props and everything written down so he knew everything, even the tiniest little detail. I've learned a lot from the art department, and I've learned that in the future to go over the script in more detail. In the future, I'm really going to strive to focus on my mise-en-scène and my set design. Apart from this, well done to my team, and that's been all the time in the world. This film is about a boy who secretly loves to cross-dress. Throughout the film, we divert this fact by portraying him as a pervert. We actually began with coming up with an idea of a horror film, but in the end, our director decided she did not want to do a horror film.
I've noticed you're pretending to masturbate, and I was wondering if you wanted to talk about it.
We were talking about Sex Education, a show on Netflix, and one of the characters who is a gay cross-dresser character, and suddenly this idea hit me. I remember watching a film about 2 or 3 years ago now about a boy that wanted to be a girl, but in secret. He didn't come out to anyone about it. So we thought maybe this could work well with our story. So the idea of making this boy look like a pervert throughout the film until the very end, to when we reveal that he wants to be a girl. We did actually have a huge restriction throughout this, because we had no producer. Me and Dixie stepped forward for actors, Will and Dixie stepped forward for locations, and I stepped forward for the equipment, as I was DOPing it anyway. So I really wanted to look up and research what goes into being a DOP. I took a definition from the internet and thought about this a lot. The definition was chief over the camera and light crews working on a film. When discussing the film in the early stages of the process, we talked a lot about the style. I mentioned a TV series, American Crime Story. When it came to actually telling the story through the camera, I began the story of a wide establisher, and throughout the film, I get closer and closer in on our main character to show that we're slowly starting to dig into him and reveal his secrets. Going back to researching this idea of how to be a cinematographer, I read books such as Understanding Cinematography by Brian Hall, and I also listened to a podcast, the Wandering DP podcast, to get a better understanding of the art. And talking about methods for the film, I know that we said we'd focus on trying to reflect the style of the Assassination of Versace. The director kind of wanted a different style as we were going through it, so we changed it a bit. So I shot a lot of it handheld, and I wanted to do this because, as me and the director talked about, we wanted to give this idea of an unstable mind. At the beginning of the film, I opened with blackness, and I only had the character lit by the light on his laptop screen, making a kind of spotlight on him. This, I feel, made the audience feel like he was alone in the world. I focused a lot on how I framed my shots as well. For the shots when the boy was watching the girls, I played with an effect that I had seen from 127 Hours. In the scene 127 Hours when Aaron meets Kirsty and Rana, the director, Danny Boyle, goes for a fourth man effect. His camera movements suggest that as the audience, we are the fourth character in that group. Transferring this over to our film, I wanted to use this idea as the fourth character. Although in our case it was not for the audience to feel like the fourth character, it was for the boy. When framing the shots, I placed the girls in the foreground and I placed them one on one side and one on the other so that the boy could fit in as the third person in the background, playing that fourth person in their group, as he so wanted to be a part of them. What went well? Well, after speaking to the editor, I'm happy with the feedback he gave me. He told me that the shots paid off fairly well, and for my first time DOPing, as I said, I'm actually quite chuffed with this. On the other hand, I do feel there's a lot of improvement that I need to go for, but with this film I also had very little control of lighting, which made the film look very flat and plain. If I were to shoot this again, I would have liked to play with lighting a bit more. As well as this, although there was meaning behind the handheld camera movement, I do feel that in times it didn't really pay off and it made it look a bit too shaky and a bit average. Overall, I believe the film did not really go as planned. There was a huge lack of communication within the group, and not having a producer, I think, really threw us off. We were unable to really tell a story, but on the other hand, we were able to organise actors, locations and equipment without the need of a producer. So I feel this went well.